we're going to talk about that tonight. He wouldn't tell me. I still have some questions.
Now's the time.
I am curious. On October 7th, you were in the northern coastal region there of Israel. What was going on as you began to hear? What was the general mood in Israel? How were people responding in the immediate days after the attack and all of that?
So I was on the beach at 6:30 in the morning on October 7th going for my prayer walk. And my son, I have a son that had just recently been released from his mandatory service in the paratroopers. And like all the good Israeli soldiers, he was off traveling. And he was in Mexico on a surf trip. And he called me 6:30 in the morning. He said, Abba, are you watching what's happening? And I mean, and he starts sending me these videos, live videos of what was happening down in Gaza and the communities, just around of these terrorists coming in. And I thought it was a joke at first. No, this can't be actually happening in Israel. I mean, we have fights, and within a short amount of time, we started opening up the news and getting all these videos and watching what was going on. And within 24 hours, we flew my son back to Israel from Mexico. And within 24 or 30 hours, he was geared up full back into Lebanon and fighting. And we were in shock. We were under attack, and it was pretty, it took us a while to really understand that this was actually real and happening. And the country has not been the same. We've been still dealing, and there's been a lot of political division and a lot of things have happened, and then the war with Iran and everything like that. But it's been a really, really difficult couple of years. We during the war with Iran, we were spent a lot of time in the bomb shelter. Our building, 2 buildings away, got hit by a missile. They were right down the road from us, and so. It's been a difficult couple of years. We're still trying to figure out how, because Israel's never gone through a long war before. We had a 6-day war, we had a couple-month war, but it's been 2 years. And we can't really, we don't know how to deal with it economically. A lot of people, friends, that they've been in and out. My son's been in Lebanon, Syria. A lot of people have been in leave their families, leave young kids, leave their jobs, leave their studies. And so we very much appreciate your prayers. And it's not over. We don't know how this will end. I know eventually how it's going to end, but there's still some things that are going to happen between now and then. So it was a really difficult time. It's really been a very, very difficult time. But praise the Lord, he still was with us and gives us lots of opportunities to share the gospel and love of God with people.
I don't want to hold all the questions.
Feel free, any questions you want, Israel. And let me, I want to say one thing before I open up for questions. So I am, besides being ordained as a Calvary Chapel pastor, I'm also a licensed Israeli tour guide. So I'm actually the only licensed Israeli tour guide that's a Calvary Chapel pastor in the world. My claim to fame, But I want to encourage everyone. Israel is open, and I am so up until the war, I was booked solid until the end of 2025, lost all those trips, but now I'm rebooking, and I'm booked halfway into 2026 already. I want to encourage you, go to Pastor Greg and say, we really want to go to Israel. Can we go to Israel? And get an Israel trip together, and I'd love to guide you in Israel. And so Israel is an amazing place. I guarantee your life will never be the same. It's like doing, it's like Bible college in the land. It's really a 10-day tour will change your life forever. So with that said, you can ask any questions you want about anything at all, and I'll do my best to answer it. So, yeah.
What's your favorite place
My favorite place in Israel to guide? I grew up in the northern Galilee, right? So I grew up on the Jordan River. My kibbutz is like like a stone's throw from here to those doors. I'd run out and be swimming in the Jordan River. So I love the Galilee. And there's the three rivers. There's the Don, the Banyas, and the Chetzbane. They all run into the Jordan River. And those areas, that whole northern Galilee where the rivers flow out of the Mount Hermon, the Banyas and the Don River, the nature up there is incredible. We have waterfalls and hiking, and it's really, I love the north. Jerusalem is Jerusalem, and you can't, it's kind of... Before I was a believer, music, when I'd be like, there were the Beatles and there was everyone else, and so, it's like, I'm not, now I don't, but like, so there's Jerusalem and there's everything else, but I wouldn't want to live in Jerusalem. I love guiding in the old city. I love walking down from the Mount of Olives and through the Garden of Gethsemane and to the Holy Sepulchre and walking. I love guiding Jerusalem, but the north is my particular favorite place. But I love all of the sites. I mean, there's so much history and archaeology, and there's so much in Israel that every place you go to, we'll start at 7 in the morning and finish at like 6, 7 at night for 10 days straight. And we'll only see a fraction of what there is to see in this tiny little country that's the size of New Jersey. I have I don't know, my passion for Israel and passion for the Word of God. So to be able to put it together is really amazing. So I love it all, but the North does have a special place. Yes? 2 parts. A and B or 1 and 2? No, I'm just joking.
Did you give up your American citizenship? And the second part is your parents.
Oh, great questions. Okay, so as far as the citizenship goes, when I was in the Israeli army, the law stated that because we have a mandatory draft, you don't have to give up your American citizenship because I'm not volunteering for a foreign army. If I would to have become an officer, I would have had to ask to become an officer, and then it could have been sketchy. I wasn't really looking to be an officer anyway, but no, I still hold 2 passports. Matter of fact, up until recently, I had 1 passport in my American name that my parents gave me so that I wouldn't get teased in the United States, and my Israeli passport with my Hebrew name. And I got to the airport last year, and they said, "Who's this? And who's this?" Because my ticket and my passport didn't match. So then I went back to the American embassy, and they said, "We're going to fix this for you." And so now both are Yosef Yaakov. But I do have 2 passports, 2 citizenships, 2 names, 2 lives. Just like Paul. If you read in the book of Acts, actually, it doesn't, Shaul, Saul, he never stopped being Saul. It just says, and also known as Paul. He was known as Saul to his Jewish friends, and Paul, in the Greek, and so I have an English name and a Hebrew name. So I have 2 passports. My parents, good question. When I came to faith, my parents disowned me. Took me out of the will. You're dead to us. That's it. 25 years later, my parents tell their friends they're so proud of their pastor's son, Yossi. They're so proud of their pastor's son, Yossi. And my dad turned 90 last week. My mom's 87, and they love to listen to my messages online. And they have not accepted the Lord. But my mom in particular, I get into deep theological conversations, and we read the Psalms together, and she's always asking about, and we've gone through it all, but it's a spiritual blindness that, people have. But yeah, I have a great relationship with my parents now, and praise, it's something only God could have done. Yeah. Yes. So before October 7th, there were protests in the country. It was about it was really about the Justice Department and the courts, and there were people that see it's very complicated, the court system in Israel. The whole government is very complicated, but there is a holdout from a radicalized left-wing movement. The same people, dare I mention names, George Soros and people that were behind some of the stuff that was going on in the United States. The same people were behind the protests before October 7th, are the same people that are behind the Bring Them Home movement. And I don't say bring them home, I said let my people go. Because who are you telling to bring them home? You're telling the Israeli government? I mean, we're not holding our own hostages, so it's really like Egypt, it's, so there is a smaller group of people in the United States, very similar to I'm not trying to get political here, but the Democratic Party, here in the United States, that make a lot of noise, and make it seem like the whole country hates Bibi Netanyahu. It's not the case. Israel is a very complicated political system where we have coalition. You have to have a coalition to build the government. And so the prime minister is part of a party. And if, in order to have enough seats to have a government in the coalition, we have to join together. And one party might say, we don't agree with what you're doing, so we're out of the government, and the government collapses. And so it's very complicated, but it's not what you hear on the news. It's not true. There is a smaller, not small, but small, a minority of Israelis that hate Bibi, and no matter what he does, they want him out of there. It's nothing about the war. It has nothing to do with the hostages. It's about hating Bibi. And we have very similar problems in Israel to the problems that you had and maybe still have, but now that you have a different government, it's different than it was last year or whatever. So, yeah, go ahead. Yes, great question. So, yeah. So, in the 1960s, there was a half a dozen Jewish believers in Israel. Today, we have about 150 congregations of Messianic Jewish believers, somewhere between 30 and 50,000 Jewish believers. It's growing. The online ministries are the most active because the religious Orthodox Jews would be really persecuted if they were seen with a New Testament or talking to, a Christian or something, or a Messianic Jewish person. And so they can read the gospel, they can read the New Testament, they can ask questions online without ever getting seen or heard. So those ministries are really growing. But I'll give you an example. Last week, 2 weeks ago, my phone, I started getting WhatsApp messages, and in Hebrew, and this guy, someone was writing to me, hi, I'm looking for a church. Do you guys still meet on Mondays? Because our church meets on Mondays. And I wrote back to him. I said, well, we meet on Thursdays over the summer. But he says, well, can I come? I said, yeah, the door's open. It's a church. I said, but it's in my home. I'd like to know who you are, And I said, I'd like to meet you first. He says, yeah, great. When can I come over and meet you? And I said, well, I got an actual open slot this evening. Come on over. Half an hour later, this guy walks in. And I'm thinking to myself, there's other congregations. I teach verse by verse. I'm a Calvary Chapel. I teach verse by verse. And I actually teach in English because no one else is teaching in English verse by verse. And so there's other churches that teach, and congregations that teach in Hebrew or Russian or Arabic. We have it all. And I translate into the different languages, But he shows up half an hour later, walks in, covered head to toe in tattoos with a bit of crucifix around his neck. And I'm thinking, oh man, this is why he didn't go anywhere else, because no other church would accept him, and we're Calvary Chapel, welcome, He sat down, we had a great talk, and he told me about his life, how 2 weeks earlier, he came to faith on his own 2 years ago by just reading the New Testament. His father saw him reading the New Testament 2 weeks ago, ripped his clothes and said, "You're dead to me," like that. He got on ChatGPT. And he said, "Where can I find a fellowship that, teaches in English?" And ChatGPT says, "Calvary Fellowship Haifa would be a great match for you. And here's Yosef Yaakov's phone number." I never thought I'd thank ChatGPT, thank God for ChatGPT, So the church is growing. Numerous people are finding out about us. We're overflowing our little living room. God is really moving right now. Because of the war, people are more open to religion, spirituality, everything like that. But there's also a real stronghold of religiosity, spirit of religion. I share the gospel a lot with Orthodox Jews, with everyone, and we are planting a lot of seeds. And I believe that all of those seeds are going to sprout after the rapture. And during the tribulation, the people that are heard, they're going to go like, wow, you guys were right, And so get out there and share the gospel. And when I was talking about witnessing, over here, one of the things that we teach in discipleship, the two things, what does it mean to be a witness for Christ? You learn to share your own testimony in a concise manner. I took a half an hour, but you can do it in 10 minutes or 5 minutes if you need to, or I could go on and tell you my life story for hours too. But, you learn to share your testimony and learn to share the gospel message. Know the verses that say, all of sin fall short of the glory of God, and learn the verses that you can describe and the gospel message, both. And if you really believe in Romans, especially chapter 11, and I have a whole separate message on this, not to get sidetracked, but Romans 11 says that when the Jewish people come to faith, it's going to be life from the dead for the entire world. And so learn to share the gospel strictly from the Old Testament. That's what That's what the apostles did. That's what Peter, Paul, that's what they were doing. There wasn't a New Testament, right? And so first learn to share the gospel from the Old Testament. But if you really, think you're going to, and pray, God, bring a Jewish person into my life that I can share your love with them. So the church is growing, and we need your prayers because ultimately that's what it comes down to. We're talking about spiritual blindness. Right now we're still in the time of the Gentiles. But the time of Gentiles is coming close to the end. It's almost the fullness of Gentiles is here. And then God is going to shift gears and he's going to deal with the nation of Israel and the Jewish people. And so now's the time to really be planting seeds. Now's the time to be, pouring into, Romans 1:16 for the Jew first. Support Jewish missions, we're on the front lines in Israel, out there making disciples, sharing the gospel, on the ground. Yeah.
Do you ever fear, though, like any persecution or anything? Has anybody ever made it?
God has not given me a spirit of fear. Power, love, and a sound mind. No, I don't have any fear. I see it.
Is there like some negativity?
Oh yeah. No, I'm persecuted all the time. I've lost jobs, I've lost friends, I've lost, over it. But that's, I'm going to declare God's truth. I've learned to do it. Share the truth in love. So I don't beat people over. Jesus is the Christ, like that. I don't even use the word Christ. I still, even today, the Messiah, Yeshua, like that. No, it's a totally different thing. There is serious spiritual warfare going on. Yeah, no, I pray about it. I get up in the morning, I don't know about you guys, but I get up in the morning, I put on the armor of God. I don't go out of my house without putting on the armor of God. And because, we're under full-on attack. all the time. But I walk in the Spirit, and I pray in the Spirit, and God is moving. And so, no, I'm not afraid of anything. I was a soldier, before I came to faith. Now I'm a soldier in the Lord's army, so heck. And it's his battle anyway, So, yeah. Yeah.
So a narrative that we're being fed here is the mistreatment of the Palestinians.
Uh-huh.
Just that the Israeli government is, starving them.
Right.
And just on the ground.
Right.
What is the sentiment? What is the opinion?
So on the ground, and as a person that's got children in the army, a child in the army, friends in the army, who've been in the army, who've been through it, witnessing it, and in there like that, you'll never, ever, ever have come across a more moral army than the Israeli army. Never in history has a nation been attacked and we turned around and fed them. And when they have our hostages and butchering our women and children and raping them, and we go around back and feed them, and we provide for their needs, and it's the lies of the media is unbelievable. It is a flat out lie. Okay, we are providing for their needs. We have more aid has gone into Gaza than you could have rebuilt for the money in the aid. Not Germany after World War II. I mean, it's unfathomable what we have done to help the Gazans. But the Gazans, sorry to say it, but a large percentage of the Gazans were with Hamas. They were complicit in this. And I know the people. I know that it was the people living in the southern communities. They were the most peace-loving, left-wing people. The reason it happened is because they were giving them work. They were coming into their homes. They knew exactly where to go when they came into Israel. No, what you read on the news, what you hear on the news are a bunch of lies. Israel is, the government is, we have done everything to try to, but who do you deal? You're dealing with a terrorist organization. You can't make peace with a terrorist organization. We're not talking about your good nature and your evil nature or your bad nature. In Hebrew we go Yetzer Hara, Yetzer Tov. We're talking about evil, pure evil. I don't know if you've seen the videos or read the stories like that. It was pure evil that happened on October 7th, and they still have 50. I'm a follower of Jesus. I want to love my neighbor as, I want to, love one another as Christ loved us. And, and I do, and I pray for them. I pray for all of them, like that. I'm still going to defend my country and my people. But there's, what's going on is unfathomable, and we need to eradicate. We just need to eradicate evil. And how do you do that? I don't think anyone has a solution to it right now. But no, don't believe anything that you hear on the news. It's just flat out lies. Israel is, and I'm not saying that because I'm Israeli. I'm telling you the truth, that we are the most moral army. And what we're dealing with in Gaza, there's never been a combat in close quarters like that, where the ratio of combatant to civilian deaths is the lowest in any battle ever in the history. We have 900 of our soldiers have been killed because we're trying to be a moral army. And if we were committing a genocide, golly, we're really bad at it. Because ever has there been a genocide where the population has grown into the millions from a couple 100,000. Sorry. Yeah.
So I want to thank you for that, because I did a little bit of research before you came on, and the discrepancy in the news is absolutely astounding from the viewpoints, so I appreciate the front view. On a lighter note, did you get a Native American name when you were in the tribal?
No. It's they're only so they respected the fact that I was a Hebrew. And because, only the people from their tribes and their clans, they have their names. And they sometimes they'd introduce themselves. And that's how I learned to introduce myself. Yosef Yaakov, I'm from the tribe of Levi and the clan of Kohen. And there's not a lot of people that can say that, I know what tribe and clan I'm from, and only the very few Native American, I don't know too many Jewish people that can say what tribe and clan they're from, But no, I'm Yosef Yaakov today. They all know me as, or that, or my English name too. So, yeah.
Do you look at the Old Testament different now that you're a Christian?
It's a great question. I have my Bible that I was bar mitzvahed with. Read it every day for years and years before I came to faith. Like I said, I knew my Bible really well, and I could tell you 100% Jesus is not the Messiah. And after I came to faith, I went back to that same Bible, and I opened it up, and I just scratched my head, and I said, I don't understand. How could anyone not see that Jesus is the Messiah? I mean, I read my same Bible, and it was literally like, you read about Paul having scales fall from his eyes. There is something real, spiritual, that there are some kind of spiritual scales that fall from our eyes when we go back and read that same book that I read, my same Bible, and I'm like, it's on every page. Jesus is on every page of the Bible. How could I have not seen it? So yeah. No, and I love my Old Testament. I still read it every day. Yeah.
With the defeat of Hezbollah in Lebanon, what do you think is happening with the Christian coalition? Do you see that nation becoming more Christian?
Lebanon is a big mess. Lebanon's been a big mess since 1978 when they had a civil war. And they're still a big mess. And unfortunately, the Hezbollah still has a stronghold, so they've not been completely defeated. And they have a stronghold, and they're not going to go down without a fight. And we hope the same thing will happen in Gaza and Lebanon, and for that matter, Syria too, with the Druze, where the people will rise up and say enough is enough. We want to take back our, country. And we hope that the Lebanese people, I fought in Lebanon. Lebanon's a beautiful country. I spent a lot of nights laying ambushes in Lebanon, and it's a beautiful country. And but it's been devastated by the so they haven't been defeated. They've been put to a place where we're not worried about their missiles, and we're not worried about October 7th happening as quickly from the northern border as but the story of Lebanon is not over. We hope that the Christians and the Lebanese people will, kick Hezbollah out, but Hezbollah is not laying down their arms. They're not agreeing to disarm, which is what they've been requested to do. So it's not over, yeah.
What do Jewish people, what's the general consensus about the New Testament in, some people think, Jesus was a prophet, some people think that he was just misguided and he thought that he was the Messiah. What's just the general consensus with that? Or is it kind of off limits?
Well, Jesus gave up being Jewish when he became a Christian. I said, I didn't know he became a Christian. People say, it's one of the things, people say, wow, that's wonderful. You're a Jew and you converted to Christianity. And I said, no, I didn't convert to Christianity. I'm just a Jewish guy that believes that Jesus is the promised Messiah. But you get a whole spectrum over there. Most of the people were not, I don't know about most, many of them were not open to reading the New Testament just because you're scared. This is the book of the Gentiles. Like I said, we were told never read the New Testament. It's something, I mean, the guy that cuts my hair there, he's a religious Jewish guy. And I was sharing from Isaiah and from Micah, and I started opening up my Bible, and he got scared. And he said, wait, let me see that, it's in Hebrew, too. And he's like, is this, the old, is this same as my Bible? I said, yeah, look at, it's like, they're really scared because of what they've been told, And I can't tell you how many times I'll show them Isaiah 53. And say, I'll read anything, just don't open that New Testament. I'll show them Isaiah 53. I told you not to read from the New Testament. I said, that's Isaiah. It's you just got to pray for them, that when something happens, that you say, you're open to reading. I got on the plane ride over here, I sat next to this Orthodox Jewish woman, and I shared the whole gospel with her on the flight over here, and opened my Bible, and I was reading through all the prophets, and she said, I'd never seen that before. This is incredible. She's going to go home and ask her husband. Boy, I'm glad I'm not around for that one.